want to tell a funny little story about you.
Keep it clean. Please, John.
Anyway, this has been before cell phones. And anyway, I'm down on the Browning Ranch and I get a call that says I've got a steer that is in the turnpike pens and they'd shipped and they've got him for me. So they said, if you'll stop by the house, we'll send somebody up with you because we're going to eat lunch. So anyway, I drive in there where her house is, and here's a bobcat that's got a boot, and he's headed down to the creek. So I go to the house, and I holler in there. I said, there's a bobcat headed down to the creek with a boot, and it was just like a Western movie, and the posse coming. They all jump up and run to the door. Well, but I just thought of that coming down here.
Did they get their boot back?
Oh, well, I guess somebody got the boot back, but you had a pet?
Well, I had a rehabilitator's license. The vet at El Dorado, Davy Harkins, got me this rehabilitator's license, and he'd bring me these bobcats that they had found, and they made house pets. I mean, they'd use a litter box and everything for a while and I had 8 different ones, different times. And yeah, there was one time these guys were coming out they were getting gravel out of Camp Creek down past the house, and they were standing out in front of the house. They were talking to me when I was living in the log house, and this one guy just kept staring at the window. Pretty soon he goes, well, if I didn't know better, I'd swear that's a bobcat in that house. And I said, look close, there's 2 of them. and they're almost full grown, and that you remember the log house had the big bay window, and they were stretched out head to head in this window. But it was kind of like when I had them, it was kind of like having a newborn baby. Nobody came to see me anymore. They just came to see the bobcats, you know. And when Rope was going to school, he was pretty young because Dally wasn't even in school yet, but he'd been telling the kids that I had bobcats, and they didn't believe him. So he came home and he goes, Grandma, can I take a bobcat for a show and tell? And I said, oh, I don't know about that. And I said, so why don't you and Dally just play with them and I'll video it, and then you could take the video to school. So they did. They had a string of beads or something they were playing, and they was grabbing it, you know, just like a house cat would and stuff. Played with it. We took the video to school the next day, and I think they passed it all over the school. Just a few days later, here come school buses with kids and to see the bobcats. And see, nobody came to see me anymore. But I had already, well, these bobcats, when they got to a certain age, they were like house cats when you had them in the house. But when they got to a certain age, then you wanted to let them out. Or I think they tore the curtains or whatever. So the morning that the school buses drove in, I had already let the bobcats out, but they would go out and, you know, venture around all day because we had the double glass doors there in the log house, and they'd be pacing back and forth. So I'd go let them out, and then in the evening, they was wanting something to eat. They'd come pacing back and forth and, you know, wanting back in. So I said, well, I've already turned them out, you know, but they were outside. And I looked out there, and the little kids were walking around in the yard, and these bobcats were coming over, rubbing on their legs, and they were reaching down and petting them. But the first, everything except the very last one we had, and we got it when it was more of a baby, I think, but they'd jump up on your lap and everything, but they didn't want you to hold them. They were a wild animal, and they went. And Rope was, like a year late. We used to get a lot of raccoons too. We had this one gal she made this pet out of this raccoon, and then she, you know, was ready to go back to the wild, so they brought it out there to me, and Rope was playing with it and everything. And about a year after that, he was down playing on the creek, and he came running up to the house, and Grandma, come look what followed me home, you know. And this raccoon had gone over to him and it was playing with him, you know, and he'd followed him up to the house. But before I released it, I had a dog kennel pen out there that I kept it in, and we'd get it close to the house and think, oh, they're going to, he'd turn around and take off. So I got some kind of treats or something, and he went out and fed it. But he didn't want to come too close to the house and get pinned up again. But we had bobcats and little fawn. They brought me 14 fawn all at one time. I think Rope and Dally had a lot of fun with them when that was about the time they were growing up, and we had a little kind of a menagerie of everything, sheep and goats and bobcats, and we had to get rid of the sheep because the bobcats started killing the baby lambs, so we couldn't get rid of the bobcats, so we had to get rid of the sheep. So.
On westward we go toward the last buffalo, to the high plains of sturdy short